Hi guys, and welcome to this little comparison. It's been a comparison that I've received quite a few requests over the last couple of days. So I thought, well, why not? Why not just do it and give my opinion about these four IEMs. What are these four IEMs? Moondrop variations, GIZAUDIO binary, Chopin, ISN Neo 5, and the Mangird Zen stop. They all share the same style of tuning, which is a tucked bass, so a very strong emphasis on the sub bass with a tuck that then varies slightly in where it ends or where it, let's say, goes flat. So anywhere between 200 and 250 hertz, give or take, most of them. That's where they do their tuck, and then it varies as well on the intensity, the amplitude of energy given to that bump that is given to the sub bass or prominently to the sub bass, and then the rest of the frequency range, most of them. The one that perhaps will be a little bit more different in how it graphically shows, at least, is the Moondrop. But the other three more or less are basically the same thing in how they do the Penon, where they peak, and how they handle themselves over then the rest of the mids, the upper mids, the treble, and then the subsequent roll off and extension past 10k. I mean, let me start by saying that it's commendable that what has been done with every single one of these IEMs in terms of their implementation. So, it's not fair for me to even criticize it, because the variations for a 1 plus 2 plus 2, the Chopin for a 1 plus 3, the ISN in the Neo 5 for a 1 plus 4, and then the Mangird top for a 1 plus 8. I think that they all have taken advantage or tried to explore to the maximum extent the respective configurations that they have. Obviously, those configurations bring some benefits, bring some, I wouldn't call defects, but bring some difficulties as well. And those difficulties mainly are, I would say at least, are being a somewhat lack of polish to a certain extent. When you have as many BAs as you have there on the top, at least that's my opinion, you are able to have all of the drivers working in a manner where they are not explored to the limits of how they function, and that then does bring with it the subsequent lower distortion level. With that lower distortion level, you get a smoother sound, a sound which is not maybe so BA prominent, or that doesn't have the prominence of showcasing the negative aspects of a BA driver, for example. When you are obviously dealing with the Chopin or the Neo 5, which then do have less BA drivers, the tuning of those said BA drivers will be very important, so that balance between it being musical but not being harsh or not being fatiguing has to be struck very well. And in the case of the variations, I mean, you have two BAs handling the majority of the frequency basically handling the meat of the frequency, which is the mid-range, and then you have the two ESTs just giving you that little extra extension at the top, with the bass being done in a manner which just it's there present. It's there. So there are also issues with a reduced number of different driver types, because I mean, this is a tribrid, this is a hybrid. Having said this, the two IEMs here, that if I have to say the two IEMs here that will impress by what they are capable of doing, are the Chopin and the Neo 5. Why? The Neo 5, because it has crazy bass, crazy bass. It's good, it's really good, but crazy bass. The Chopin, by how balanced, how coherent, how it is able to give such a composed presentation while maintaining a very high degree of fun and musicality. Okay, the other two, obviously due to their price, you start expecting more, you start wanting more. I mean, we're talking roughly $500 here for the variations, as we know, $200 for the Chopin, $289 for the Neo 5, and $530 for the top. So when you're talking, 500 buckaroos, we are expecting a certain thing, not only in terms of the presentation of the package, which yes, they do confirm. They have nice nice cases, nice enough cables, decent enough tips, and so on and so forth. But especially in the sound, you expect to be really wowed. You want to be able to say to yourself, no, I'm transitioning from, let's say for the sake of argument, a Moondrop aria, and I'm going to a Moondrop variations. I want to see a big step forward. Okay, in the case of the Mangird, you can say, oh, I'm coming from a Mangird T and I'm now transitioning to a Mangird top. I want to see an improvement. I want to see a jump in performance. And yes, you do see it, but obviously, of course, the law of diminishing returns is present. So it's a fine game of balance. Costing more, how much more performance do you get? Does it justify itself? How much performance can you get for less money? Having said all of this, the Chopin definitely impresses by the coherence of its sound, irrespective of the IEM. And some of you might be saying, oh, okay, but what about the Full Performer 5? Yes, I could have the Full Performer 5, yeah, and the Full Performer 5 would also be able to trade blows very competitively with any one of these 4 IEMs. But talking directly about the Chopin, and if I have to take the Chopin, for example, and compare it to the variations, I would say that the Chopin is capable of giving me a good 85 to 90% of the performance of the variations. Okay, 85%. I'm going to be 85% of what I get in the variations, where the biggest differences mainly are that I don't have that extra cleanliness that I get in the treble in the variations. I don't have it here. When I push the volume, when I start pushing the volume, and if I'm not careful with what source I'm using, and I'll get to that in a second, you notice that this becomes a little bit less polished. There's only 3 BAs there handling the majority of the frequency spectrum, so you notice that they are being pushed. I'm not sure if they are Knowles, if they are Sonian, I don't know, I have no idea. I know they are custom, but that's about it. So you notice that in that aspect, the variations maintains its composure better. Also maybe a product of the way that the tuning was done, that not to push those respective drivers handling that part of the spectrum as much, they sound smoother. So this offers a cleaner sound up top, definitely in the upper mids and in the treble, and offers a more polished sound across the board. Okay, but this is $200 and this is $500. So without question, the law of diminishing returns does come in effect here. And if you want to have the experience of the variations, the Chopin fits the bill perfectly. I only wish, honestly, that the accessories had been just a little bit better to justify more that $200 price tag. But putting the accessories aside and looking purely at the sound, I confidently say that this is 85% of a variations. Now, you may ask, is that 15% enough to justify 2.5 times the price? Twice, so 1.5 times the price, rather. It's something that I cannot reply. It all depends on you. The value of something is dependent on what a person is willing to give it that value or not. Comparing the Chopin with the Neo 5, although they graph similarly, the way that they present themselves is so different that it's not even fair to kind of say that one is a loser, one is a winner, because the way that the bass has been done here, and although graphically, when I show you in a second the graphs, is not that much more than what it is here, it just has a different fullness, it just has a different impact, which the Chopin doesn't manage. The Chopin does not match the Neo 5 in terms of its bass output. However, in terms of its mids, upper mids and treble, the Chopin does do a very good job. So I would say that this here is kind of a tie. Again, the difference of price here is minimal, so it's ultimately a question of what do you prefer, a more bass heavy kind of presentation, or a more overall homogeneous presentation, the Chopin. It's a difficult one. So this here is I would say it's a tie. They both do what they were supposed and intended to do very well. Finally, taking the Chopin and comparing it there with the top, with the Mangird top. It is very evident straight away when you start listening that the Mangird top has got just that little extra weight on the bass, noticeable. Besides having that little extra weight on the bass, it is just a little extra polished in the bass. It's got that extra texture in the bass. Okay, it's a testament of a 10mm beryllium driver or beryllium coated driver. This is an 8mm driver, which, let me say something to you, probably one of the best small drivers that I have heard up to date. In terms of the smaller drivers, fantastic. Really, really, really good driver. I can only imagine what, for example, a dual driver or dual setup with using two of these drivers. Let's imagine, for the sake of argument, let's imagine a Blessing 3 using two of these drivers, something along the lines of a Blessing 3 styled IEM using two of these drivers. I can only imagine the performance that you would get out of it, because these drivers, are something else. So in terms of the bass, the top is better, it is superior. And then in the rest of the presentation, I also prefer the top. I'm not going to deny it. I also prefer the top. What you do notice is a smoothness across the board, which is very noticeable. Everything there is just smoother, more well executed. You don't have ever a sense of anything being put to the limit or put to the test. That's my ears, my music. That's my perception, and as is my perception with regards to all of these IEMs. If you guys remember when I did the review, which involved the Neo 5 and the top, I said that the Neo 5 was a mini top, and in many ways it is. The thing here that ultimately differentiates them is that the balance struck between the bass and the mids and the highs here, and the balance there, it's more favorable, it's more well executed in the case of the top. That's why the top comes out on top. It comes up ahead. But I mentioned that the Neo 5 would be a good viable alternative for for someone looking for the sound of a top, but you just cannot reach those $500+ that it costs. And with regards to the Chopin, again, it's not entirely a fair comparison. Okay. Because obviously I'm taking a 1+3 and I'm pitching it up against a 1+8, so way more drivers, way more everything. But in this case, in this particular case here, and I'm not taking anything away from the variations, but in this particular case, the top is a better IEM. And I would say that the top does have enough to justify its extra price. Like I said, bass, mids, highs, everything is just that extra little bit cleaner, that extra little bit more well executed. But, and as I said in the case of the variations just earlier, there is a significant price difference. This is 200, that's 530. This, I guess, if you were to give it a little bit of an extra boost in the bass, maybe can match the top to your taste. And so I guess you could get the experience of the top for a significant lower price. So yeah, in that aspect, definitely. And the reality is this: more and more the market is providing us with IEMs at a lower price tag, which have gotten their inspiration in other models. I mean, I mentioned in the Chopin that I thought that, or I believe that possibly the inspiration for the Chopin was the the hexa and the zero. And I stand by that. I really truly think that that was to a certain extent the inspiration, because that type of curve, is again a curve or style of graph of sound that you saw, for example, in the variations. So we are now getting in 2023, or well, we've been getting now for a while, more and more IEMs that go and fetch inspiration in IEMs that were significant and are significantly more expensive, but are like 2 or 3 years old. And to the extent, I mean, who's to say that they also didn't went and fetch inspiration here for the Chopin on something like the Mangird top? They could have said to themselves, let me go and try and fetch something which sounds like a top, but obviously with less drivers and at a much lower price. That could have been the case. The truth, straight and simple, is this: the Chopin is a very good IEM. It's very well tuned. It plays really well. I mean, I gain absolutely nothing by saying this. I get no monetary compensation whatsoever. You guys can be saying, oh, but you're shilling it. No, I'm not shilling it. I'm saying what I hear. And what I hear, it is a very good sounding IEM. End of story. I don't care if it was GIZAUDIO or whoever designed it. That's irrelevant for me right now. As a pure IEM only, this was a well-designed, well-executed IEM. The drivers chosen were done carefully, and it sounds fantastic. Just touching up quickly here on the issue of the technicalities. In terms of the technicalities, I would say that technically it is basically very capable in keeping up very much with the variations. I didn't honestly see the variations being that much better, and therefore that 85% that I was also mentioning. So I didn't see that being better compared to the Neo 5. It is technically a little bit better than the Neo 5 because it is capable of giving you a little bit cleaner detail retrieval, a better sense of imaging, but it's down to the fact of you having this monstrous bass that you have here. But again, it's not like a huge day and night difference. And compared to the Mangird, again, it keeps up quite well, but the Mangird does have better technicalities overall. The sense of imaging and soundstage, for me personally, I think of very well done. In terms of timbre and tonality, if I have to say which is the one that's which impresses me the most, or I like the most, the top. And then this is an over, it's a bit of an emphasized timbre and tonality, but still good. The Chopin has very nice timbre and tonality, very correct timbre and tonality for me, and the variations as well. I would probably say first, second, and then third in terms of that technicality. Soundstage, I would say first, second, and then third. Imaging first, very close second, and a very close second to this, a very close third to this, and then this one here. So that's it, guys. I mean, like I said, obviously I'm coming to all these conclusions with the music that I listen to, which I'll post in the end when so that you guys can see what songs I used. But I mean, for example, just one of the songs that I was using, so that you can perhaps also get a better idea what you're gonna do from Frank McComb. It sounds good in all of them. Let's be realistic. But for example, I listened to it in the variations, and I feel that there's something missing there in that mid bass to mids. There's just some lack of energy there. Okay, fine. I listened to it on the Neo 5, and it's overly emphasized. So his voice comes across too husky, too thick. Let's put it that way. I listened to it on the top. Perfect for me. Perfect. Listen to it on the Chopin. Very, very good as well. I mean, these two do that song the best. No issues. Elephant from Carol Duboc. It's a song that in the beginning has a very nice drum hit. Amazing. Does it perfectly. These two are close second, and this one third because it needs a little bit of more mid bass. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, another song. Swept Away from Carol Duboc. Another song from Carol Duboc which I like. Best. Again, this and the variations, actually these three, second and a very close third, okay? Let me see. Sunrise, the live version from Larry Carlton. Very nice there. Very, very nice. It's a song, in that particular song, then, for example, I would say the variations comes in second, and then these two in third. Let me see another song. Female voice. Here But I'm Gone from Vanessa Fernandez. Honestly, I think the Chopin takes this one. I think the Chopin is the one that actually is able to take this song in first, and then the top close second, and the other two in third place. I don't know. And as I was mentioning earlier, and I was forgetting to also say, with regards to the combination of what you used with it, I used this combination, which I like, this kind of more warmish analog combination, which is the NX7 with the Cayenne RU7. Now, this does obviously help out certain aspects. If an IEM is overemphasized and the higher frequencies, this brings it down nicely. And I think in that aspect, yes, the top did benefit from that, because I noticed that the top, when I used, for example, an ESS based DAC, it sounded artificially bright, okay, which is the same thing that happened here, while the Neo, for example, benefited from an ESS combination. So if I was to use something with an ESS DAC chip, even with the NX7, I would have to change a few of things of what I've just said with regards to this placing and how I see the Neo 5 compared to the Chopin. The Neo 5 in that circumstance does play better more often than the Chopin, and it is capable of keeping up more in terms of its mids and highs, and also give a better technical performance. Okay, so in terms of what you're going to use with the Chopin, I personally feel that this helps the Chopin, this combination, this warmer combination, helps the Chopin not show that extra balance, or not balance, sorry, tonality that you get in the balanced armatures. It makes it more pleasant to listen, okay? And even in the variations, I mean, even when I use this with the variations that EST treble doesn't sound as metallic-y as compared to when, for example, I'm using an ESS. It just sounds a little bit more metallic-y. But, look, the truth is this, and you must always keep in mind, my music, my ears, my IEMs, these particular units. What other units are going to be sounding like, I don't know. And with that, I'm saying that, driver variation is a reality. We've seen that subject being talked about this whole week. It is, and it doesn't matter if it's a $50 IEM or if it's a $4,000 IEM. And as certain people said about that issue, it's how then those issues are handled. But the truth is this, even another prominent reviewer, which was very fond of the variations, and the variations for him was the be-all, end-all of IEMs. He got a second unit, and that second unit graphed totally different to his first one and sounded totally different. And with that, I'm saying, it's a little bit of a wild card, unless we are talking about a manufacturer which builds every single IEM by hand and then tests it and absolutely guarantees that every single unit that leaves the factory is absolutely the same. When things are mass produced, obviously a high degree of wanting to maintain that uniformity is something that they look for, but it is not something which is as easily obtainable as some of us think. So, and therefore arises that variation that they say, a 3 dB variation between channels is acceptable. A 3 dB of variation across the mid-range is acceptable, precisely because of what I've just said, So anyway, guys, I've been rambling and talking here. I hope that this was helpful to clarify a little bit better the position of the Chopin, and that it is truthfully a good IEM. I'll show you now quickly the graphs and we'll wrap it up. Okay, you take care. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section of this small comparison that I've done here. I'm going to start off with the graph of the Chopin. As you can see, nice graph, having this tucked style of bass, just over 200, basically 200 hertz. It's where it hits its flat point. Well, if I want to be absolutely precise, it's about 230 hertz in my particular unit, and then a nice smooth pin again, picking it close to 3, and then with a nice progressive roll off. Compared to the Neo 5, for example, this difference here is very noticeable, not only because it's a 10mm drive as opposed to being an 8, but there's a lot of bass. Coupled to then the fact that this area around 3K is slightly less energetic, what we get is a presentation which is very bass dominant. However, it is actually surprisingly clean in the mid-range, as long as the song is not a very prominent bass song, a song which has that area emphasized quite a lot. And basically, this is the reality. This is ISN's house sound. Very well executed bass with then a mids which you think won't keep up, and ultimately they do keep up quite well, quite significant, quite well actually. In terms of how the tuck is done, this one is the one that probably has the least tuck, as it kind of tucks and almost touches there, and then it kind of just glides. It's almost a tuck. Nevertheless, I still felt that it made sense to be here because it does have that tendency of having this fold here and then going down. So it's not like you have a progressive decrease now. All right, so that's that one. Next, the Mangird top. Again, you can see a tuck, basically close by 285 hertz, more or less. It's flat already, and then again progressive pin again, peaks at a little bit before 3K, peaks at about 2.7K more or less exactly, and then carries on more or less the same level as the Chopin across the mids, with a little bit more extension past 10K. This difference here again noticeable, but what is also noticeable is that, and that's the saving grace, let's put it that way to a certain extent, is the fact that because it's a beryllium coated driver, it's a very quick driver, it's a very high quality driver like the Chopin's driver, and that's why, although it's a little bit more bass, it's really well executed. I mean, like here on the Chopin, you see the balance between the two extremes. Okay, if I now put the Mangird, you see that balance is skewed towards the bass, but it's not what I personally hear. It's not what I personally heard. All right, and as I mentioned, the source did also play an important role in that. And then finally, against the variations, again, the same tuck, roughly touching 0 there by 250 more or less. Same sort of bass, of mid bass, of mids rise and peak, and then that drop and everything. This part here is very equal. Actually, I mean, when I was actually having a very hard time telling the two apart from the fact that the treble, the upper mids and the treble on the variations were just that extra bit cleaner. Okay, and also because of course I was listening in a quiet environment and so on and so forth, I would say that if I actually was outside, I maybe wouldn't pick up on this difference as easily. Okay, but definitely the variations is more polished. I mean, come on, let's be realistic. It is a more polished IEM. It does execute everything better. Even technically, although the difference is not huge, it is a better IEM. Where you feel that, or at least where I felt that it lacked something, was again, you see how it's skewed. Okay, is in that it needed a little bit more of mid bass, or maybe perhaps a better quality driver for this amount of bass to be cleaner, to be more more capable of giving male vocals just that little extra grunt when it's needed, okay? Because you feel that they are kind of lacking sometimes a little bit of weight. It's that mid-bass presence that, you know, should be there. And that's it, guys. Let me just put all of them again together so you guys can have a final look. That's the variations of the Mangird. This is the Neo 5, and finally the Chopin. I mean, I really don't know what else more I can say. The reality and the truth is that the Chopin is a well-executed IEM. I mean, whether we like it or not, that's the truth. It's a well-executed IEM, balanced, you know, well-built. Just a pity about the accessories. Anyway, guys, as always, like and subscribe. If there's anything else you'd like me to compare, please leave me a message and I'll do my best to do it as quickly as possible. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.